Hey everybody, it's your old pal Robert from ThrillRide.com. How are you doing? So I'm out in the middle of kind of the high desert area again here in Southern California, about an hour north of where I am, in Antelope Valley to visit the Antelope Valley Indian Museum State Historic Park. You can see behind me there's a lovely kind of cool structure that has a bunch of exhibits inside, but there are also nature trails and some other areas to explore, and it's kind of nestled up against these beautiful rocks here in the desert, and really cool location. And it's just, it's always super peaceful out here. I love coming out to this part of the region and learn a little bit more about Native American history. So yeah, let's go take a look around. Well, as you can see by these kind of warning signs right out in front of this nature trail, this is for real. There's some nature out here. That's why I was really excited to come out and visit this particular museum. And boy, it is a blustery day. So there's this kind of gateway alongside the property, and some very lovely artwork representing the Native American cultures that I'm sure are described in detail here. But if you walk through and see in the distance, again, these beautiful rocky mountains that the museum is nestled up against. Really lovely. And I'm kind of going in cold. I know there, again, is a kind of main house with the exhibits, but then it looks like there are also other outdoor exhibits here. Like something called the Yucca Cottage. This is one of the oldest structures H.A. Edwards built in the 1930s. He named it Yucca Tree Cottage because of the large Joshua tree that once stood nearby. Yucca tree is another name for Joshua tree. And there's a photo from the 1930s of the property. Yeah, very undeveloped back then. Yeah, there's that house here, and a few others over here. Yeah. Well, again, plenty to explore here, so let's head inside. You pay your admission at the gift shop, and I'm going to do that. We don't normally get winds this strong, but yeah, we're supposed to get gusts up to between 20 and 30 miles an hour. And yeah, really seeing the flags blowing strong in the breeze today. And it was supposed to be cloudy all day. Looks like the sun and the blue sky is going to break through here and there, but it's very pleasantly cool, mid-60s. I like it. In this little courtyard right out front, an information panel that tells you a little bit more about the Antelope Valley Indian Museum. Where but in California will you find a Swiss chalet-style building decorated with American Indian-inspired images built into a rocky butte in the middle of the desert? Well, I guess that would be here. In the late 1920s, Howard Arden Edwards began construction on this site. It served as a second home and as private Antelope Valley Indian Research Museum. Edwards was, among other things, an artist, amateur archaeologist, and American Indian enthusiast. The landscape, the building, the collection of American Indian art and artifacts, and the museum's exhibits make this a significant place. The Native American Heritage Commission recognizes the butte on which the museum is built to be sacred land. And on this metal plaque out front here, it reads, "The Antelope Valley Indian Museum, site of ancient Indian villages, was built in 1928 by H.A. Edwards and purchased and enlarged 1938 to 1941 by Grace Oliver, and then the museum opened in 1941. Nice. Ooh, that's a heavy door. All right. And here we are. Okay, it looks like we are in something called the Kachina Hall. Welcome to the Antelope Valley Museum. This site and its diverse collection represent nearly a century of collecting, displaying, and interpreting Western North American Indian cultures. The exhibits reflect the attitudes of the people who created them. Each room has a distinct character, which reflects the styles and techniques of the era in which the exhibits were created. I love those traditional Native American rugs draped over the, I guess, balcony up there. And yeah, look at the art on the ceiling. Really beautiful. And there's a portrait of Howard Arden Edwards himself. And this room we're now in also happens to be his living quarters when he was both working and living here. On the other side of this painting of a kind of Pueblo structure is a portrait of Grace Oliver, the woman who bought the property from Edwards, continued renovating it, and then gifted it to the state. This is a really beautiful kind of wooden sofa, and I love the chain kind of armrest, but the beautiful kind of traditional Pacific Northwest Native American art on the upper back. That is very cool. And then it sits in front of this really awesome, what I'm guessing is a natural stone formation that the house is built around. And then this awesome balcony up there too. And look at the plates on display and the shelving up there. Yeah. You can see on the shelf up above these paintings, kind of these wooden figurines. That's really neat. Yeah, he certainly didn't limit his collecting to any particular kind of object. It's all sorts of things. It's like a wooden or a wicker basket there. Well, it's a little hard to see because it's dark in this kind of plexiglass box, but it says here that wood artifacts are rare because wood rarely survives over time. And this ancestral Pueblo arrow dates to about 1200 CE. Wow, that's cool. And there are some more of those various figurines. I think I had something like this when I was a child, one of those wooden sculptures, and I don't know where it went. And I'm sorry I don't have it anymore. And in this plexi display, there is a Chumash basket from Southern California. They date it late 1800s to 1905. And you know, I've been to several Chumash historical sites. And is it Chumash, Chumash? I'm constantly going one to the other. If anyone knows for sure, please leave a comment down below. And then alongside it here, there is a, let's see if I can pronounce this, Coahuilisu basket from the South Sierra Nevada mountains, and estimated to be from the early to mid 1900s. And this is an object called a basketry storage jar, Western Apache from central eastern Arizona, also from the around the turn of the last century. Beautiful. The pottery displayed here was collected by Roscoe T. Hazard. He donated the collection to the state of California in 1972. State parks exhibited some of the Hazard collection at Old Town San Diego State Historical Park. The rest of the collection, including these pots, has been in State Parks collection warehouse since 1977. In 2010, State Parks began looking for a new home for the collection so the objects could be shared with the public. The Antelope Valley Indian Museum accepted 81 pieces of pottery that would complement the Southwest exhibit. And there really is a lot to take in here. And a docent did confirm that the rocks in this building are the natural butte. The house was actually built into the rock. And here are some, looks like traditional drums kind of stuck up here. That is awesome. And you can see that they carved a stairway into the rock that kind of takes you up to the second floor where I guess the museum proper is. So yeah, you want to use the handrails. This is definitely uneven climbing. Oh, neat. There you go, tucked away under this window. A lot more pottery. Yeah, awesome. And also told that the footing in here is a little uneven because, again, this is all carved into the butte. Super cool. Oh, wow. Look at this. Yeah, this is the California Hall. Yeah. California Hall takes you back to the early 20th century. Many of the displays are typical of the large amateur private collections of H.A. Edwards' era. Edwards collected at a time when the law protecting some archaeological sites was not strictly enforced, and many non-Indians considered it acceptable to collect American Indian artifacts. This room was Edwards' Antelope Valley Indian Research Museum. He made many of the displays still seen here. He filled his exhibit cases with similar objects from different cultures and time periods. His detailed descriptions were well-researched for the time, but also contained some inaccuracies. So in the 1990s, state parks updated the exhibit cases to reflect new knowledge and changes in museum methods, ethics, and laws. Right on. So in display case A are samples of American Indian pictographs, which are rock art. And although the specific meanings of most images remain unknown, they are believed to have been part of spiritual practices. These reproductions, painted by local artist Charles Lamonck, come from a pictograph-filled cave in the Chachapi Mountains. They are believed to have been done by the, and there's that word again, Kwailishu people? So this is why some of the cases are currently empty. It reads on this panel here, the objects that used to be on exhibit in this display case are from the traditional territories of the Chumash, Tongva, and Luiseno peoples. These objects should never have been taken and put in this museum to begin with. State Parks is currently working with these tribes to return the objects home to their rightful place. Excellent. And in this case, we see samples of California Great Basin pottery. California and Great Basin Indian groups developed a pottery industry around AD 1000, several hundred years after ancestral Pueblo Indians in the American Southwest. Wow. I'm really intrigued by this double-spouted olla, it looks like it's called, for cooking and storage. And I wonder what the purpose of the two spouts was in cooking. Intriguing. It is interesting to see how many exhibit cases are closed. Really speaking to the number of artifacts that were improperly taken. And here's a display on the archaeology in the Antelope Valley. When white settlers arrived here, few Indians lived in the region. However, archaeology has shown that this was a recent development in the long history of human occupation in the Antelope Valley. Archaeological excavations indicate that as long as 6,000 years ago, Indians lived in semi-permanent year-round camps throughout the valley. Well, here's an exhibit on cooking baskets or mush boilers. American Indians across North America make baskets. Some of these groups, such as California, Great Basin, and Northwest Coast Indians, used basketry rather than pottery or stone vessels for cooking. These cooking baskets are so finely woven that they can hold liquid without leaking. Holy moly. I didn't know that was possible. Oh, this is really cute. These are cradle boards. Cradle boards allowed women to work or travel while keeping their babies secure and comfortable. These cradle boards, made by women in California and the Great Basin area, were woven from flexible twigs like willow and hazel. The small ones were likely designed for sale or trade. Neat. Oh, wow. And it says several of the cradle boards have decorations on the hoods. These indicate if the child within was male or female. The diamond design was used for girls and the diagonal line bowstring design for boys. How do you like that? Well, in this display case, there is what looks to be a handwritten sign that I gotta believe dates back to the earliest parts of this museum's history. And it reads, Flint chipping. Contrary to general belief, arrowheads are not made by heating a piece of rock and dropping cold water on it. They are made by striking off a large flake from a suitable piece of rock. The tool used is a fairly large hand hammer. And I guess along the bottom of the case are these various rocks. And it reads, archaeologists differ as to whether these rocks were shaped by people or nature. If people did use them, they are the oldest tools in the museum. Cool. I've shot a bow and arrow in my day back in summer camp, and then a few years ago, somebody I knew was into archery and gave me a refresher. But to think back that, Native Americans just handcrafted every element of every arrow, including the feathers at the tail and the stone arrowheads at the front. Just amazing. Archaeologists recovered the stone and bone objects, in this case, from various sites in the Mojave Desert, including Antelope Valley, Owens Valley, and Death Valley. The variety of objects recovered indicates that these sites were not simply gathering places, but living sites that supported a full range of activities. California Indians traditionally wove designs into their baskets. In the early 20th century, the practice of overpainting became popular with some basket weavers. Usually, they applied paint over the woven design, although, as seen on one basket here, sometimes there was no woven design, only paint. I wonder which one that is. So it says that the items in this case were found by Edwards at this location, and he named this spot Paiute Butte after the Paiute, a Great Basin tribe. Now, it's spelled differently in both cases, Piute Butte and Paiute, the name of the Great Basin tribe. I wonder if that's intentional. There's a lot of mortars and pestles here, and like right next to this one is a desert tortoise shell scoop. That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, early cultures used whatever materials were available to them, and that included animal bones and exoskeletons and the like. Some of the oldest evidence of human settlement in the Antelope Valley comes from the Barrel Springs site near Palmdale. For at least 5,000 years, the natural springs provided water for desert people, animals, and plants. The objects displayed in this case and the one to your right show a few of the items recovered from the Barrel Springs site. Unfortunately, there's a little glare on the glass, but I love these three objects here. Steatite arrow shaft straighteners. That's amazing. You can see the grooves in the stone that I guess were used to make sure the arrow shaft was indeed ready for accurate flight. And in this case to the right, there are lots of mortars and pestles and pottery shards and steatite bowl fragments. And I guess steatite is a type of stone, which I'd never heard of before today. And then kind of hanging over this is another beautiful basket. And it looks like it comes from the Mono Lake Paiute region. And clearly not a cooking basket. Not very tightly woven, but lovely indeed. And it's interesting that they kind of become art objects when displayed like this. But these kind of rounder, flat mortars with a very shallow depression in the top, and then the smooth stones that were used as, I guess, kind of smaller pestles, maybe? But they're pretty elegant looking. I picked kind of a nice day to visit this location because it is very quiet. And there are times when I have the room all to myself and you just hear the sound of the wind blowing outside. It's incredibly peaceful. And heading back down from the California Hall, you can see this painting with a very rustic frame, and yeah, the steps are pretty uneven, so definitely use the handrail. So this is the southwest room, and the exhibits here are typical of the era when Mrs. Oliver, the woman who bought it from Edwards, ran the museum. This was a time when trained academics replaced amateur enthusiasts as the primary interpreters of American Indian life. And here, just another case of examples of various southwestern pottery. And I love that, again, double-spouted container or maybe cooking device on the right there on the second shelf. That's black on red pottery. And then a little lower, I love the checkerboard kind of design. Some of the other patterns, and it's just lovely. I mean, this is so great when you see early cultures creating objects that have function but are also designed with an aesthetic in mind, that they were meant to be visually pleasing as well as functional. It's just a human drive. And I'm guessing those are little geometric abstract frogs, and yeah, they rule corn. While southwestern tribes have diverse origins and cultures, corn plays a key role in the lives of all Pueblo people, both as a food source and a ceremonial item. Prehistorically, corn was a dietary staple. Wow. Pueblo cultures have made ornaments and jewelry of stone, bone, and shell since early in their history. Around the early 17th century, the Spanish introduced silversmithing, for which the Pueblo Indians are known today. Ah. And I love this kind of miniature reproduction of Navajo artisans at work, including women carding, spinning, dyeing, and weaving wool into a rug. And it looks like these are all kinds of ropes and objects made out of fiber and feathers, to fashion shoes and cords. So on the left is a coil of finely shredded fibers from a cave near Lupton. And then on the right is a bunch of yucca fibers from Walnut Canyon in Arizona. Can you imagine just stumbling upon this, wandering around a cave somewhere? Oh, so cool. Well, apparently these are foodstuffs, including melon rind, nuts, corn, and yucca chews. I didn't know there was any part of the yucca that was edible. I love this photo in another display case of cradle boards of a little baby tucked away. And I guess it's mother holding him gently, and you can see a kind of variety of different designs and fabrication techniques. Some of them are full covers. Some of them look to be kind of just strictly wicker, some with cloth. For a museum that is kind of not very large, there's a stunning amount of material to enjoy and learn about here. Very impressive. I'm definitely learning about just some of the many, many Native American tribes that lived in the southwestern region. And here's another group called the Hohokam that I'd never heard of before. They migrated to southern Arizona, probably from Mexico, around 300 BC. And I love these examples of early kind of jewelry, pendants and necklaces, and I guess they call them perforated pottery discs. Looking at these pottery shards and just seeing the little bits and pieces of the graphic patterns that were painted onto them, and it just makes you think somebody many, many, many years ago sat and created these objects, and we're looking at them here today, hundreds, maybe thousands of years after they did that work. So I never knew that these discs, these woven discs, are called plaques. And it says they are made by starting small at the center and then gradually becoming larger. And these plaques here are made for the Antelope Valley Indian Museum by Ethel Polaka. And in the smaller room off the southwestern hall, there's a wall of incredible vintage photographs of some of the Native American peoples from the region. Look at that. Wow. These photographs, taken early in the 20th century, depict people suspended between two ways of life. In the mid-1800s, American settlers moving to the western Great Basin drove Native Americans from the best hunting and gathering places. The displaced Indian men often took jobs as ranch hands and woodcutters. Women frequently worked as servants in the settlers' households. So this is actually called the Great Basin Room. And until I visited this location, I had never heard that expression, the Great Basin, to describe a region from which a lot of First Peoples came, or eventually settled. As the western Great Basin grew drier and many animals became extinct, the desert people learned to use other available food sources and develop specialized techniques for taking animals. When 2070 to 2060 BC, they began using bows and arrows instead of the less accurate atlatl, or throwing spear. Motors today hurry through the western Great Basin's deserts, seeking to escape these lonely landscapes. Occasional cottonwoods brighten the sagebrush expanses, signs of water in an otherwise parched region. Yet 10,000 years ago, lakes covered large parts of what now seems to be a barren area. Native Americans once camped on the shores of Lahontan, Humboldt, and other ancient lakes. Wow. So heading into the last room of the exhibit, this says, Shadows on the Sand, People of the Antelope Valley. And seeing a lot of photos of wall paintings and carvings. And it reminds me of the time I went up to the Chumash Painted Cave National Park. Very small protected area up north of Santa Barbara, and really, really incredible. Shot a video of that a few years back. I'll put a link in the description. Native Americans created art galleries on rock all over the Southern California desert, the largest collection of such art in the United States. Antelope Valley artists left their mark, too, with a series of pictographs, designs painted in black, white, and yellow, and shades of red. They also made petroglyphs, pictures pecked into the rock surface. A gateway to trade. A network of trails once crisscrossed California, enabling Native Americans to trade with each other. Ideally located to serve as a trading hub, the Antelope Valley was easily reached from all directions. Nearby groups, Chumash to the coast, Shoshone in the desert, Yukuts in the Central Valley, offered a variety of goods to share with local Indians. Well, heading back outside, feels like the wind has gotten even more blustery, but yeah, the clouds have burned off, it looks like, and let's see what we can see out here. There's a Joshua cottage, and again, the docent said that some of these structures here are actually in use. People live here and or work, so we're not supposed to knock on the doors or disturb anybody that might be inside, but definitely free to wander around a bit. The living room of Joshua Cottage is one of the original structures built by H.A. Edwards in the 1930s. In 1945, Grace Oliver turned it into a guest cottage by adding 4 rooms. There we go. And Edwards and his wife Rose lived in this cottage in 1945, while Grace Oliver employed him to paint and decorate the cottages. Huh, neat. Boy, I'm just trying to imagine what this view was like back in 1945. I mean, it's still pretty undeveloped, but I'm sure this was almost entirely barren back in the day. Rock Cottage is named for the rock outcrop that is incorporated into its southwest corner. In 1944, Grace Oliver hired Gordon Gain to construct 6 guest cottages at the museum complex. Okay, Grace knew Gordon Gain from his work on Hollywood movie construction crews, where he helped build the yellow brick road for The Wizard of Oz. Amazing. That is awesome. Butterfly Cottage is named after the butterflies painted on the roof's barge boards. See, I didn't know that's what those were called, barge boards. This is one of the guest cottages that Gordon Gain built in 1945. Each guest cottage has a small sitting room, kitchenette, bedroom, and bathroom. Man, how do I retire in one of these? And this is the Lizard Cottage, which again takes its name from the lizards painted on the roof's barge boards. And although Grace Oliver rented out the cottages periodically during her ownership, their glory days occurred when the Golden Mesa Dude Ranch operated here from 1948 to 1955. That's a pretty cool historical photo of the area. Looks like it's from the 1940s, which unfortunately has been defaced somewhat by a bird. One of the larger cottages, Bluebird Cottage, is the only cottage that also contains a small dining room. This cottage takes its name from the bluebirds painted on the roof's barge boards. There you go, barge boards, that's the word of the day. Oliver furnished all the cottages with matching Spanish Revival style Monterey furniture made in Los Angeles in the 1930s. Cool. So there is a little nature trail here too. I'm probably not going to do the whole thing. But again, we are warned to keep our eyes peeled for the residents of this area, especially the non-human ones. But it is just so incredibly beautiful. I'm going to take a quick look a little closer to these kind of spectacular rock formations with the yucca trees out front. Oh man, I just love this so much. Man, it just makes you feel like urban Los Angeles is on another planet, especially when there's nobody else out here. Ah. walk the whole nature trail. I think they said it's about a quarter mile, and it looks like it is just a loop that kind of wraps around the back of the property. And now I'm seeing that kind of red barn-like structure there. I wonder what that is, because I don't think that's part of the museum complex. But maybe it was originally, or it still is, but it's not accessible to the public. I'm not sure. Man, I haven't felt the wind blow like this in a long time. Feels good. And of course, gotta give a plug for Thrill Rags t-shirts. I'm wearing the Nightmare Gulch Dark Ride t-shirt. Felt it's kind of appropriate given the Western theme of this episode. Oh man, the wind is coming on strong again. But if you want to support the channel and buy a cool t-shirt, visit thrillrags.com to check out the selection and start your purchase today. And as always, thank you so much to everybody who's already bought a shirt. It means so much to me, and it really does help support the channel. So thanks again. Wow. Finding it a little hard to walk in a straight line, man. I'm getting buffeted here. This is awesome. Well, it looks like we're getting close to the other end of this little mini trail. And I guess I'm glad to say, but a little sorry to say, did not encounter any critters on this walkabout. I guess, you know, middle of the day, I would imagine this is when animals tend to rest up in the peak heat. But yeah, mountain lion or a little tarantula or something might have been kind of cool. I'm glad a rattlesnake did not decide to share their presence with me. That's something I can live with that for now. Yeah, that is some kind of big old barn. That's really cool. It is very far off the manicured trail, from which we are not supposed to stray, so I'm going to stick to the trail. But yeah, that's a pretty cool vintage structure there. Or maybe that was a homestead. I don't know. I could definitely make a home in there. Get up every morning and see that view on your front porch. Oh yeah, baby. Yep, and this brings us right back around to the other side of the museum. That's a very, very easy hike. There's a little slope here and there, but it's a pretty short trail, so if you have the energy and the spare time, I'd recommend it just for a nice quiet 10 to 15 minute stroll through some really stunning southwest landscape. Yeah, and you can see here from the other side of the building how it is really tucked right into the rock. Ah, so cool. All right, I think that is going to bring this one to a close. So as always, thank you so much for coming along, and hope you enjoyed a look around. Very cool part of the state historic parks here in the Antelope Valley. And of course, you can't beat the price. $3 to get in, and that is your day pass to some of the other state historical parks in the area. So if you want to see some of the other locations here, that $3 gets you in. So yeah, that defines nominal. It's like they should charge more, I'll just say that. But yeah, if you're in the area and you want to learn a lot more about the local Native American history, highly recommend it. And you're still here, for which I'm always super, super grateful. So I can only ask that you might consider giving this video a thumbs up and maybe share it and maybe even subscribe. And I'll just say once again, a purchase of a Thrill Rags t-shirt helps support the channel, so please visit thrillrags.com for a souvenir t-shirt from a past that never existed. And I'm hoping to have some more Thrill Rags news fairly soon. Some new items coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, in the meantime, take care, and we'll catch you in the next one.